Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It's a little bit before 7 o'clock on Wednesday evening, August 7th, 2013. Had a little bit of business to tend to late this afternoon, slightly out of town, and I'm back. Before we take a look at the chart, I want to remind you, as always, that the website and the video are for educational purposes only, and nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I am not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. Well, I think this makes 2 days in a row when the market looked like it was at a point where one might reasonably expect a bounce, and instead, we got a pretty swift loss of ground. Coming into the market activity on Tuesday, we rested right on top of what appeared to be a support line, and right on cue, Jim says, hey, I think the markets may go up a little bit from here. Boom! They go down. Then we have this trend line right here, and hey, it looks like the markets could go boom. So I don't know what to say other than we know that things don't go up forever and they don't go down forever, but this is really, that's two fairly well reasoned support lines that have given way in a row. And it is what it is. I did not get the call right, and so be it. I'll take my lumps. What happened was, the thing that kind of was right was looking upon this as a bear flag after that pretty swift loss of roughly, about 11 or 12 points. So we make this little bear flag, and it looks like he broke down but wanted to pull back, but that gave way to more selling today, and then it looks like maybe the formation of another bear flag, and there's a reason to believe that this bear flag will act like a bear flag because it's shaped like one, and it's also now underneath what used to be support, but it's interesting to note that the last 3 days of trading has taken place in a parallel channel. And if you want to include the low back here on the 5th, you can. We have 1, 2, 3 lows that match up perfectly. Let me just get rid of this line for a second. And I'm not saying everything has to be parallel, but if we snap a parallel line to this and move it right here, you can see that today's move off of the lows at 1685 broke through this top line that may be technically significant. But here's the kicker. It would not surprise me to see a little rally tomorrow and then weakness as we may come down to backtest this line right here. And if that is what happens, then I would look for that being a short-term bottom. Now, if that is the case, then we would be looking at a support line that I've just highlighted here that would become more and more important if we get a bounce there. The reason is, if you get a bounce, another bounce, and then another bounce, then that means you've got a lot of shares that have been bought that are long above that support line. The longer that support line tends to work, the more critical I think it becomes for it to keep on working. So I'm watching this line at around 1680 with a pretty good bit of interest, because if this gives way, then I think the mid 1650s are pretty easily in order, where if that does happen, one would hope we would find some gap support as put in by that gap up on the 11th of July. One more thing to throw a little strangeness at you, if you will, talking about parallel lines, where we bounced today, and I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but I think it's an observation that I need to point out. If we look at our tops line right here over the last two tops, and then we make a parallel line over this bottom, that's about where we bounced today. For what it's worth, I don't think it's worth that much, so I'm getting rid of it. But I wanted to point it out. So right now, this could be a sign here that we may have one more leg down, and then we turn back up. And that would kind of fit with the general theory about the number of waves that we tend to see. This would be basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we would see what the market has in store as far as putting in some kind of bottom. But clearly today, the breaking of another support line. So that tells us that, this is a more of a sign of weakness than what we've been seeing. And now that we're below 1698, I would expect 1698 to put up a little bit of fight. So we are currently underneath resistance, where, having broken this orange trend line, this should be resistance. This should also be resistance. This line, I think, may be support. And this line, dare I say it, support. So, are we looking at any kind of major pattern? Not exactly yet, but I think this line right here is, at least for the intermediate term, pretty important. So let's keep an eye on this as a potential something of a neckline. It's almost horizontal, and it just kind of looks like it's hard to tell if this is a market that wanted to roll over, then broke out and is now pulling back, or is it a market that was rolling over, found a little bit of extra steam, and now it's getting back to the task of rolling over. Frankly, it's not easy to make that call at this point. Break this line and put in, especially if we put in a new low that is lower than what was put in on July 26th, and I think we can say, yeah, this looks like a market that's got to roll over and do a little bit of selling before it can come back up with any kind of renewed vigor to get significantly over 1700. I'm still open to that idea. I'm still open to this market even potentially coming up and tagging this red line. But it doesn't look like it's got the steam to do it right now. And as evidenced by 2 days starting out with a pretty significant weakness, let's see what happens tomorrow. Again, this is a little parallel channel. 3 days. We've seen little breaks like this kind of give us an indication that the selling is almost over. But I could see this creeping up tomorrow and then coming back down and tagging this line for a back test. Then, hopefully, bouncing with some renewed strength. So, folks, that's your video for August 7th, 2013. We're still dealing with really kind of small time frame stuff. I would love to see a big old monster pattern develop that we can trade with some reasonable degree of expectation. Still not there. It just isn't there. There's no big pattern that says, yes, definitely look for 1790 or there's no pattern that says, yes, definitely look for 1580. We just don't have it. We're dealing in small ball right now, and it's not being very, the chart is not being extremely helpful by giving us some mixed signals. But hey, hang with it. Eventually we'll see something that'll be a little bit more valuable to us, and hopefully we'll catch that on the chart when it happens. Thanks again for watching. Take care.